Hi guys, what's up? I hope everybody is doing good and your preparations are going really well. So, I'm here with the CMA Inter Data Analytics Marathon so as to help you in a very short time, speed up your preparation to revise the entire content of data analytics to the extent possible, right? And also, before we do that, I have to let you know about a couple of very interesting points and prerequisites. That is, we have released our color material for the paper 11B, and in fact, for all CMA Inter, we have released our cover books. So, those of you are already students of the course, you know about the book. So, for those who don't, let me just give a quick uh, intro about how these books have been used and designed. So we have made sure that the books are quite designed in such a manner that they're student friendly, and then this set of classes which we taught from this book, we have used proper set of colors to help identify what the keywords are. And in fact, the book is crafted in such a manner that uh, you know once you go through them, you will have a clarity as to what exactly is the work that went in making these books. And not only that, just again, this is not to just create some hype or something like that. This is a very very true fact that if you ask somebody who has attended the classes, right, you will understand how neatly we went chapter by chapter and layering down things with proper side headings, with clear understanding and all of that. So before I discuss the marathon, for those who have not well versed with this, you have the free resources of this particular book available on Sreshta's website. So you can just go and download the free version of this book to make an insight out of that. If you want to purchase the color book also, the place is available. Let me just try and quickly show you if I can. And yeah, let me just open up Sreshta for CA. If yeah, there it is, the website there. So on the home page of the website, you will be finding various sections, and you will find a section for books here. So if you go down to books, you'd find CMA Inter, and then all the books, group 1, right, group 2 individually, whatever you need to buy, the packs are available. You can just take the course of the story there. And then if you go to the free resources section, here a lot of things are there as to what these free resources are, so you can go by that and figure out what exactly you want to do. So those are those couple of things. For those who are watching this the first time, I just showed here. If you go, you can get to the right set of books that are needed for your preparation. On the other front, this marathon is going to be based on the handwritten notes that we have used during the course of our regular classes, and we have already prepared with such finesse that this particular material will be available from the description, or it will also be available in our free resources where I showed you. You can go ahead and download from there also. Point being, the resources are very much ready for you to go and conquer everything. All you need to do is to just put your effort in studying. So let us quickly, that's it guys, that's a couple of minutes about, because I don't want to people to find themselves short-handed as to where, what and all that. So that is the reason I showed off. I know many of you already know this, and you would have watched the other videos to already figure this out. So but still, it is my responsibility to show it from my side, and which is why I thought I should do that first. Okay, so that's the end of our initial piece of discussion. For this handwritten material also, you can get the link in the description, or probably you can again go to the free resources. It will be available as the on-screen notes that is prepared. Now, since it's a 20 mark subject, I want to keep it short. I don't want to consume more of your time, but we will try and ensure that we revise almost everything in a very elaborate manner possible, right? So going by that guys, to start with, we have the discussion about three words: data, information and knowledge. So what about data, information and knowledge? If you see that data is a collection of facts and figures. What is data? It is a collection of facts and figures, numbers or images, text strings, and the keyword to go down there is, it's already given there, it is raw in nature. Okay, it is raw. So randomly one number we wrote there, no, 7412. I wrote something, whichever came to my mind that time, right? That is data. But if you simply see 7412, it doesn't make any sense. It could be somebody's roll number, it could be a folio number, it could be some book or some anything, ID. But when you attribute something to it, when such raw data is processed, data when processed becomes information. Clearly, data when processed becomes information. Now you can use computers and software to do this exercise. So knowing the fact that 7412 is not a random number, but it is my bank balance. So if that is the case, then it is called as information, knowing the fact that yes, this is my bank balance. But if you go one step even beyond that, using that information to gain something out of that, where you can make an understanding or an inference, an understanding gained from the use of information. And also, or if you are getting any inference means an understanding that you make out of, so both, it is called as knowledge. So for somebody who doesn't find that linkage, it won't be called as knowledge, because for them it doesn't make sense. In fact, for some people, data will still remain data, it also can't transform into information, right? So data first will transform into information, then will further become knowledge when it is universal and it can be used. So if the balance falls below 5000, I will be penalized. So knowing 7412 is your bank balance was information, and knowing the fact that if your balance goes below 5000, you will be penalized is knowledge. Then later you can't say, sorry, sir, I don't know, and all that, right? So this is the basic idea behind what these three terms are: data, information, and knowledge. Then, guys, moving on to the nature of data, how data is established. Data is established in numerical format, right? Based on the numbers, data will be called numerical data. Then based on content, if you write the data in terms, it will be descriptive data. No, sir, it is expressed in the form of pictures, then it is called as graphic data. So with that clarity, you have the basic understanding of the three aspects of data: numerical data, descriptive data, and graphic data. Now, going by the two types of data, when you see what data is in terms of its type, either it can be content or it can be numbers. So quantitative data and qualitative data, what is it? Quantitative data and qualitative data are the two types of data. But then the same thing, if you see data based on the organizing pattern, if data is neatly organized, not yet processed, but at least neatly organized, then it is called as structured data. A data that does not follow any kind of pattern is called as unstructured data. And then based on the grouping, right, data will be called, either if it's a flow kind of a data, it's continuous data, or it's specific group, it is called categorical data. So basically these are all the various types of how data is classified. That is the nature of data. So guys, and I'm hoping now that you are into the marathon, I wanted to tell this in the beginning only, but I'm hoping that you have already revised the syllabus once, right? Once you revise the syllabus and then watch this marathon, it will be a revision marathon. From this marathon only I will learn everything. Uh, that is not what the marathon is meant for. So revision marathons are meant for you to recollect what you discussed, and to make your memories afresh of what it is, not to kind of push through and teach you something new here. So please understand that way. Obviously I will be telling everything what it is, but just by watching this I will just like achieve something or do wonders is not the expectation you should have. Okay, so on that note, data, information, knowledge, nature of data. Now moving on, what are the properties of data? Now this alone can turn out to be a question in the exam. So tell me, what are the properties of data that you see? Yes, data should be accurate, complete, consistency should be there in data. For what you are searching, there should be relevance, and in timeliness, very important. Age old data also will be useful if there is something that you can infer for it. So how recent the data is or how old the data is also makes sense, it is called timeliness. And then we talk about validity. is the data valid or not, and then we are also talking about accessibility, which means data is there, but are you able to get a hold of it? Are you able to get an access to it? Accessibility. Then the last point of discussion in data is called scope of data. Now, scope of data mean, sir, what all are covered in the fact of data, right? The depth and width of data, where the data comes from, very important. Sources of data, where does the data come from? How much data is there? Volume of data, variety of data, and then also the time frame to which the data belongs to. All these are some of the points that we have to see as data's basics. So can you take a moment of time to run through all of these one more time? Let me bring this up. Nature of data, properties, and scope of data. Can you take care of all of that once real quick, so that we will quickly move on to the next topic, wherein we have a detailed discussion about the concept of digitization. Before I do that, take a quick look. Guys, you are on digital devices. You can put me on pause wherever you want, and then you can revise and get back. So that is something that I expect you to do. Then guys, I hope you have gone through it. Now see, I would also want to tell you that since we are on this very first page, see, you also keep your main module next to you, whichever you are following. Now if you have already been a student of ours and you have the module with you and you've gone through our classes, this would be a great revision for you because you already know the concepts very well. You spent enough time. Otherwise, in these kind of marathons, what you're supposed to do is, we will not have all the time to explain everything with intimate details line by line. So you just have to pause me at various places and go to your main book and run through that also, whichever book you are following, right? At the end of it, it is not really necessary that you have done the class only with me to understand this. So concepts are concepts, that is there. Now those of you who have already done, I think you should not have that problem. So on that note, let me move on to the next topic, guys, which is called as digitization. So first one, data, information, and knowledge. I hope you are clear. Now let us move on to digitization. What about digitization? Right? Converting data into analog form, converting data into analog form into digital form, right? Analog means it is either in the form of a document, image, or an object. The old school version of keeping data in physical form is called as analog, but today we are storing it in form of zeros and ones, which is in the form of a binary or digital data. Now digital data, the best part about the digital data is it is used for computer based processing. Digitized data's main purpose is it can be used for computer based processing, and two of the main objectives is, if you are keeping analog data, it will be there in one place only. You cannot, if I have to get access to it, I have to go there. But just imagine, today we have digital data and we can get the access to data anywhere, right? So widespread access to multiple number of users. In fact, what is not written there but what can be added there is multiple people. Widespread access is there to multiple people simultaneously. If you want, you can add that word also there, simultaneously. And then preservation for future, right? So this coming from stone age. If you remember that example that I gave in class, in stone age they wrote, like they carved on stones to leave something for future generation, right? Similarly, the next generation, they wrote on leaves, then they crushed the leaves and made some pulp out of it, wrote on that. Then over years things improved and then they made the paper. Today we don't have all of that. We have finally moved to digital footprints, where we leave all the data pretty much on the computer, right? So that is called for computer based processing. Rather than keeping data in physical form, we are keeping it in digitized form, right? So three things are there. Digitization is a process, converting this to this, the purpose, objectives. Now two questions that have made it to the exam, okay, in the past is one, why should we do digitization? What are the reasons? Each reason is self explanatory there. As I told you, first one, it is very easy to retrieve, that too from anywhere. Multiple users can access from any place. Reuse of data, complex data, if you are maintaining in physical form, once you used it, again using it be a challenge. So reuse is easier now. enhancing efficiency in processing. Efficiency is the speed at which the processing happens. It is digital data is processed much faster without any break is the word called seamless. Seamless means without any breaks. So information flow is pretty much seamless. Then all the information is easy to store and backup, like you can store content on Google Drive or any drive once you digitize it, right? Google Drive, OneDrive, everywhere. And from any place you can have remote access to all the data. And then when you are working on this, there will be a rise in the efficiency and output. There's a difference between point number 4 and point number 8. While point number 4 talks about efficiency in processing, that is the time taken to process, point number 8 talks about rise in efficiency in the output. So the time taken to generate the output and use the output, that is also faster. And more than all of this, what data you will store in a huge record room built with so many racks and filled with so many books can all now be stored in a small pen drive that can fit in your hand. That means it requires very less physical space. This 9 point answer as to what are the reasons of digitization has already been in the exam multiple times. It can always come back in your exam, so focus on it. Now another very important question which has again been asked in the exam is, okay sir, you hyped about digitization enough, what about digitization? How do we do it? Whenever digitization is done, it is not an overnight exercise. It is not a overnight exercise. It has to be done in phase wise manner. So therefore we talk about how do you do it. First, why should we do digitization? Get that justification. Then assessment, from when to when you can do digitization, whether the digitization is possible or not. If we are doing digitization, in what space can we do it? Space means not the physical space, like in what timeline, all of that you have to decide. So the fact that you should understand why you are doing this becomes a very critical exercise. Then followed by doing the digitization activities. Now, sometimes point number 4 alone can turn out to be a question in the exam. Point number 4 alone, right? So, first planning the data, then capturing all the analog data, quality control at a primary level, then editing all the data into digital format, and then again whether everything has been edited correctly or not. Like that, we will do a secondary round of quality control. So, this QC here stands for quality control. And then finally storing the data in electronic form. Then ensure that the process is there to care of the records. And finally, did you achieve what you want to achieve out of this exercise? An evaluation should be done to understand whether digitization was successful or not. A very wonderful topic. A fully elaborate and detailed discussion is there about digitization. So very simple. What is it? Purpose, objective, reasons, and uh, the phases in which we have done that. Now, one of the very important points, multiple time asked question in the exam, is this one. The 6 core steps that are involved in the 6 core steps. Put a start that question. Converting data into information. Converting what into what? Converting data into that to decision relevant information. Randomly doing something will not help. You have to convert data in such a way that it can be used. Guys, in the like previous part where I discussed digitization, that is an exam question. This one is an exam question. Next one, what you're going to see, 5 principles of ethical use of data. That is also an exam question. So, what I discussed previously, what I am discussing now, and what I'm next going to discuss have all been there in the exam. So, watch carefully. First and foremost thing, to convert data into information. From that information, you will have to make a lot of decisions. We will do it later. But first, collect the data. In fact, where do you collect the data? Now I'll add some this thing to it. From various sources, right? Those of you who have done completed the syllabus, you know this. We have repeated this so many times, right? So collect the data, then organize the data. Organizing the data means putting it into a nice order, right? Very important. And in organizing the data, as we go further, we will talk about cleaning the data, removing duplicates, filling all the missing items, removing outliers. Like that, we have talked about multiple things, right? So we have to discuss that. Organizing the data is about cleaning this, I mean like cleaning or data cleansing. Then start the data processing, apply all the models concepts on the data, convert the data into something meaningful. Then gather all the data and put it in the form of a place, that is called integration, grouping all the relevant data into one. Prepare a report where all the data that is now converted into information does make some sense. And then finally utilize the data. Now while reporting the data reporting can also be done in visual format, wherein you can use the technique of data visualization. You can use data visualization. That is why 2 chapters later they tell you, okay, very good, data and information and all are fine, but how to present the data in a very visualistic manner. So all these points are very clearly discussed. So if you want to run through that, as I told you, keep the main module next to you only, go through relevant places, you pause, go through it, and then move to the next one. That way you can do the revision very thoroughly. Okay, so take a minute, put me on pause, do that revision, run through everything, and then come back to listen to the next one. Come on. All right, guys, I hope you have gone through that. So let us move on to the next topic, which has also been an exam question of the past, and that is called as ethical use of data. So how is it important to, mention that you have to use data very ethically? Ethical use of data is a very important thing, because see, at the end of the day, anytime you do any of these aspects, that is collection of data from various sources, you have to do two things. One is to take the consent of the person from whom you are collecting, and then whenever you are disclosing that information also, you have to take the consent of the person, called consent to disclose. So two consents are something that we are talking about here: consent to collect and consent to disclose. So guys, this is a very repeated question in the exam: ethical use of data. So if you can focus on what exactly are the 5 principles. The first principle is regarding ownership. Regarding ownership, individuals data, which is individuals personal data, sometimes the individual's personal data, what I wrote there, SPDI, which is called as sensitive personal data or information. So if you are collecting that, the ownership of that data no doubt belongs to the entity, but before you do that, it is mandatory to obtain two things. What is that? A consent to collect the information from the user, and a consent to disclose. Okay, so consent to collect and consent to disclose from the data owner are two of the very very essential aspects of collecting the data. So first thing, when you are talking about using other people's data, you are more supposedly to be bothered about how do you ethically use the data. So that is the first principle regarding ownership. Point number 2, regarding transparency. So what about transparency? uh, why are you collecting the data, and from what all sources? That is how you will collect the data. User should always be aware of this. If you remember, I told you this in the class. Many people, they are not even aware of what are they sharing. They go on, click, I agree, I agree, I agree, I agree to everything. They will say, we will take your life. You'll be like, ah, agree, take my because we want the app to open. No. So if you say I won't agree or I won't give permission, now like say you bought smartwatch. Smartwatch is asking you to, uh, it connects to your phone. Then it asks you to enable permissions for several things, right? Smartwatch wants to access this, smartwatch want to access that. Now that smartwatch want to access your contacts, you deny that. Then what is the purpose of smartwatch? You won't be able to call from the watch. You are getting the logic. So therefore, and then the smartwatch service provider will have an app in which all this data will be there. They will collect all this data. Now they will obviously not disclose it with others, but definitely there is a point that is to be observed here, that when such people collect the data, they have to tell two things: why their data is being collected, and users are to be also to be informed about how to be how to be that how do we use that particular data. So about two things: ownership and transparency. These are the two ethical principles, followed by how safe will the data be kept. Followed by what? How safe will the data be kept. That is called as privacy. Now data privacy, not all data should be made public. Not all data Not all data should be made public. Here I wrote no. Sensitive personal data or information which is about collecting certain things like financial information, passwords, and all of that of a person, biometric information, they all come under sensitive personal data. You are not supposed to disclose that. We will not disclose your sensitive data. We will store it in our servers elsewhere. Like that, every time you sign up to something, no, they will make you sign a privacy policy. Without your knowledge, you will only agree to that. But the whole point is, when you are agreeing to something called as privacy policy. So the third and very important principle of the ethical use of data is that data privacy policy should be there. Collectors, whoever are collecting the data, they have a responsibility to safeguard the data as well. And then intention, the intention behind collecting a data should be its ethical use. What did I say? One more time. The intention behind collecting a data should be its ethical use. Ensure ethical use of data. Ensure what? Ethical use of the data to be collected. And lastly, the results of data analysis. The results of data analysis should be used only for ethical purposes. Ultimately, why you collected it and what are you doing it should also be very much emphasized. Okay, so guys, this last set of 4 points, one more time to quickly run through all these points about data, about the digitization, about these 6 core steps of converting data into information, and the ethical use of data. All these points have been asked in the exam. Alongside this, I would also want to show you very quickly as to what one point I would like to show you from the material is, these all are fine. There is one point called professional skepticism. You remember that? Professional skepticism regarding data. Let me bring that on your screen there. Yes. So this is this particular point. Just like how in audit you studied about professional skepticism, having a questioning mind, having a what? Questioning mind. It is to whenever you do data analytics, blindly you are not supposed to accept anything. Just like in audit, whatever comes your way, you are not supposed to blindly accept it. No. So like that here, data analytics is a very powerful tool for decision making, that managers must not accept the results, must not, when I say I wrote there also, blindly at the face value. So what are you supposed to do? A little deeper exercise to explore the hidden insights. Huh? Grass is always greener on the other side. There is a saying like that. That means from this side, when you see, the grass looks greener only on the other side. Actually, maybe it is of some color. When you go close to it only, you will know the reality, right? So like that here also, on the face of it, data may look fantastic, but you have to dwell deeper. That is the word. Deeper investigation is often necessary, because there is another saying, no, all the glitters are not gold. Okay, I'm not in any, you know, what do you say, motivational mode, but that is the thing. Grass is greener on the other side, all glitters are not gold. From all of this, what is supposed to understand? That your data also can mislead you big time. So there may be so many things that are hidden in the data, unique insights, unique challenges. All these need exercising an element of professional skepticism. Have a mind, don't blindly believe, right? One odd time what happens is, one exception will be there. Based on that exception, you cannot generalize everything and say everything will be wrong. So again, I'm saying it is just an exception. So possibility is there that one more exception like that may not be there in the entire population. You know what is it called? Anomaly, which is not the true representative of the population. So if at all you find any anomalies in the population, you have to flag that. Based on that, you are not supposed to make conclusions, because if you make conclusions based on that, there is a possibility that the conclusions may end up going wrong. So all those are important points that you have to take into consideration, right? That they are called as anomalies or false positives. So you have to figure that out accordingly. And then last, this point number 6, the word we have used also in the past, outliers. Something that does not belong to the regular group. If they are all belonging to the regular group, we can go with it. But there are some things that don't belong to the regular group, and they are only called as outliers. Such outliers, if they are anything which are found, you have to find them and tag them up. Okay, so guys, this is the whole story behind this particular point that I wanted to emphasize, which is called professional skepticism regarding the data. So with that, I guess we have taken care of the very first piece of our discussion, which is something to do with the first aspect called as introduction to data analysis, wherein we are talking about data, information, knowledge, the nature of data, digitization in all aspects, and conversion of data into information, along with ethical use of data. Plus, for your understanding, I am going to also add in this material or add here, so that later we can come down to that. Also refer professional skepticism. Also refer professional skepticism of data. So I'm just adding up that, so that when you are running this material, you can go there and just run through it. There's nothing there much, just a couple of points added up. Okay. So on that note, can we move on to the next piece of our discussion, which is about data processing? Right. Now that we spoke everything about ethical use of data, professional skepticism, and all of that, that concludes our major discussion on the first chapter, or the first chapter in our syllabus, which is the eighth one. Let us move on to the chapter number 9, which is now going to talk about. So guys, we are half an hour through into the marathon. I want you guys to pause wherever you need, and just go back to the main module and check everything. Right, there may be a possibility that I might not, I'm trying to touch almost everything possible, but there is a possibility I may miss something. So when I do, you should be a little honest, you should take on that and get into it. So that is the very first part of our marathon. Now moving on to the next topic, which is chapter number 9, which talks about data processing, data organization, data cleaning, and validation. Enough aspects are there in the story to understand what is it. First topic, which is called as data processing. What about data processing? See, it is neatly three key words are identified in the definition of what you call as data processing: organizing, categorizing, and manipulating. Manipulate here means to make some changes. So you are taking raw data on one hand, then you are organizing it, categorizing it, and then making some changes to it, manipulate, and then pull off some useful information out of that. And pull what? Some useful information out of that. That is only called as data processing. One more time in simple terms, what is data processing? Data processing is about organizing, categorizing, and manipulating the data to extract useful information. So that is the first and foremost insight you have to develop from this. Okay. Then moving on. Today, in doing all of these activities, back then lot of manual effort used to be put in doing it. But now there is a shift from manual to automated data processing, because not that others are not interested, but you see, manual data processing has its own setbacks. Right, for a long time people used to do, and they used to commit a lot of error, and we used to take it for granted because we thought human error is okay. But it is not like that. Human error should also be taken cognizance of. Today processes are automated. Now the problem is, in execution there won't be any mistakes, but while automating, if the process itself is wrong, then huh? every transaction with which you do know, it can go wrong. So you have to be slightly careful about that aspect. So data processing definition is clear to everybody. And a simple but a very important note before I discuss the history is, only when you drive through good quality information, you will end up sorry, only when you have good quality data, you will end up getting good quality information. So the summary is, good quality information comes from good quality data. And there are three types of data processing. Age old form of data processing is called as manual data processing. Then moving further from there, if you're using any devices, punch card machines, I shown the photo of punch card machine, another thing also in the class. They are non-computerized tools, not manual but not computerized, intermediate. The mechanical devices, right? Like in mathematics, people use abacus. It is not a calculator, right? Like that you move the beads and count. No, so like that here, it is a mechanical tool. So like that here also, punch card machines, I've shown you that in the class, so if you remember that. And third one is the modern day story of electronic devices, which are computers. So three things: If you are doing data processing without the help or use of any machines, data processing that is done without any machine help is called as manual data processing. And also manual data processing is done at a small scale. What scale? Manual data processing is done at a small scale, and it is used in cases where it is hard to digitize. Where it is what? Hard to digitize. So neatly, three simple points to summarize. How about mechanical? As I told you, they are not manual, at the same time they're not computer also. Then what are they? Non-computerized tools. What are they? Non-computer tools, like use of punch card machines, which are used for data calculations and searching of the data. And the third sort of data processing technique is use of computers in the modern era. Use of computers and other electronic tools is a bigger and clear advantage, is that there are very few errors, and it's used in the everywhere in the industry today. Research, in academics, academia means academics, everywhere today in data processing we use electronic data processing, and it's also having a short form called EDP. And there is a specific scope about audit in EDP environment, because when your transactions are processed in automated environments, what will be the story of that? To make an understanding of that only, we have to do the audit also in EDP environment. Various new audit techniques are there. So that is why when I was teaching this, I have explained that in detail there also. Bottom line, three categories or 3 points are there in the history of this one: manual, mechanical, and electronic. Then moving on to another short but a very important question that I would like to bring back is how data processing. These 15 points are there, which are amazing uses of data processing relevant to finance. Now, what I can observe is there is always a possibility of asking you to write any 7 out of these, any 5 out of these. They can always ask you that. For you to have an easy understanding, what I did is split 15 points into 3 parts. How data processing and data science, this entire concept of data, data analytics, how are they relevant for finance? If you see that, it is useful for risk analytics. Okay, risk analytics, analyzing how much risk is there. Processing structured data anybody will do, but if you have unstructured data, to organize that and process the unstructured data also, we can use data processing, right? I can avoid the loss and recurrence of something, right? Avoid the loss and recurrence. And very important point, one of the higher order topics that we have discussed later in the syllabus: if data is processed, the machine learns as to what the patterns are and tries to give you an understanding about what it is and how it is, which will become machine learning. And also talking about dynamic risk assessment. Normally people end up doing risk assessment which is static in nature, but we don't want something to be static. We need a dynamic risk assessment. It means ongoing, continuously you can do a risk assessment. Then when data changes, data dashboards and data processing also gets updated. If you are using data processing in real time, then we can as well do what is called as customer data management, customer analytics, customer segmentation. 3 points about the customer data. You can manage customer. Today almost all businesses are engaged in doing this thoroughly, so that they know everything about us. They know our shopping patterns, they know almost everything that we have. That customers data is being managed. Customer analytics, how many times he will buy, what he will buy, when he will buy, almost all points about frequency, everything. And then customer segmentation, which talks about breaking the entire customer groups. Then based on data, we can give personalized services to a set of customers and advanced customer services to a group of customers. So that is the reason why we categorized all these 5 points together here, because they all belong to the customer. Okay, so 1 to 5, and 1 to 5 are one lot. 7 to 11 or one lot. I would have explained this in class. If you move real time analytics this time, last part is all about analytics and detection. So real time analytics, predictive analytics, fraud detection, anomaly, something that is not the representative, that what we call as outliers, right? Those anomaly. And also today in algo trading or algorithmic trading, I think now by the time we finish the syllabus, everybody understood, because towards the end of the syllabus we did talk about concepts like algo trading and all, where artificial intelligence is used, where the system knows when to process the order. So for all that, background work will be done by the I mean, what is it, the AI tool itself, by using machine learning and in fact deep learning. And then it realizes when to process those buy orders or sale orders in the stock market. So 5 5 5, if you split it like that, all 15 points, you can revise it carefully. Take a look at how data processing and data science are relevant to finance. Okay, so that sums up the discussion over there, and we will come back to the next one, which is a very 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 important question. uh, this piece of discussion that I'm going to have about the next three topics, they deal with three clear aspects. What are those? Let us see that. First one, what are the steps involved in data processing? Very very easy. Six steps are there. The sixth one finally is something which leads us to a new topic. So I want to discuss all these together and close out this discussion. So first, let's talk about what are those steps that are involved in data processing. If you see what steps are involved in data processing, data validation, the very first step is to ensure that you will validate the data. When you get the data, later we will see how to validate the data. Data validation techniques are later there in our syllabus. So by the time we were discussing this chapter, we didn't know how to validate. Code check, you remember those validation techniques? It will come later, we will discuss it, don't worry, we will revise also. Okay, there are some checks to see whether the data that you gathered is correct or not. But first thing that you are doing now is data validation. You are validating whether the data is right. Then organizing data into a proper form or a format. Organizing the data into a proper form or a format. Gathering all the data to one place. Gathering all the data to one place, that is called as aggregation of data. What is it called? Aggregation of data. Then we are talking about analysis of the data. So aggregation means grouping all the relevant data in one place. Analysis is to apply a model. Analysis is when you apply a model on all the data and find out which falls where. And then very important point is reporting, putting it in a form of a report which could be used by management to make decisions. Data validation, organization, aggregation, analysis, reporting. Now, once the reported data is there, listen to this point carefully. Once the data is being reported, next step is called classification. Sir, what are you going to do in data classification? Now, the users of the data, they are always bothered about how important the data is. Because at the end of the day, there is one basic question. What will happen if you lose the data? What will happen if you lose the data? Now, if sometimes nothing will happen if you lose the data, because the data is not so serious. It's available in public domain. Sir, what we are losing? Data itself is in public domain, no problem. If it is like that, then it's not a problem. But what if? So the scenario is a different thing, right? So which data is important and which data is not? Classification becomes a important tool. So therefore, the last step involved in data processing is classifying the data correctly. So sir, for classifying the data, what is the tab that we use? Uh, we take three bases depending on what is there in the data. This is population data, this is school data, this is historical data, this is financial data. Like that, content based we will do one classification. Then this is about this year, this is about the meeting that happened that time, this is about something else. Like that, we will talk about context oriented data, content oriented. Then we talk about context oriented. And then very important, user based classification. depending on who is going to use the data, we will determine what sort of a data that is, right? So data classification, three methods are there: content based classification, context based classification, and user based classification. Who is the user? Sir, user is corporate level, then that is one different classification. Sir, user is our functional level, then that is one different classification. So depending on who the user is also, classification model will change. Okay, then another type of data classification is there, where you can classify data based on the risk involved in it. That is, three types of classification are there here. Data classification based on risk levels: high, moderate, low. High risk are those data which are very sensitive, critical, and hard to recover. In the event of you losing the data, it is very, very hard to recover for you. So first one is high, second one is moderate. Moderate means it is not so simple that you can go and tell the whole public about it. Uh, at the same time, it is not so sensitive that you need to do something about it. So basically, it is an intermediate thing that obviously you can't tell outsiders, but at the same time, not highly secretive. Non-public, but highly sensitive. What did you see what we're talking about? Non-public, uh, non-public, but not highly sensitive. And lastly, something that you can give the public, is called as low risk information, something like an annual report or something, which is very easy. Okay, so all of this high, moderate, and low are the classification. Then based on risk, confidential information, sensitive information, public information, like that we made three classification. Then which is important, which is not, how will I classify? So if you want to do that, to help you do, sir, okay, you said this point, it is very easy, we will classify this into high, moderate, low, but how will we put this all into a space where this is sensitive, this is public? How can I gather? Based on three factors. The three factors are, what is the impact if you lose the data, what is the description of the data, and who has the access to the data, right? So large organizations have huge data. Classification is always a challenge. Therefore, use this type of data classification matrix, which is a very easy alternative to understand, and it is constructed based on two principles. You know what those two principles are? One, the likelihood of being hacked, how easy or difficult it is to hack some information. At the same time, also considering the sensitivity of the data. So if you lose, what will be the impact? What is the data? If you lose, what will be the impact? What is the description of the data? Who has access to the data? That on one side. And how confidential, sensitive, and public. Now let's say public data, if it is hacked, what is the impact? Public data, who has access? Like that, depending on these, if you make the classification, the job becomes way more simpler for you to understand which one falls where and what gets the priority. So that is the story of the data classification matrix. Okay, you want to take a clearer look, you can do so, right? At this moment, if you require to take a pause and go through things, you can do that also, because I do have to move on to the next part of the discussion, where we will be talking about data organization, data distribution. Then we will talk about data cleaning, then data validation. These are the very important aspects we have to talk about from the next chapter. And then comes what we discuss as data visualization, which is the very important discussion about how data should be visualized, and then what are the steps involved, then all those tools. Anyway, that is in for it, don't worry, I am going to discuss all of that in clear manner. So if you can again, I'm thinking that we are about close to 50 minutes. So I think you should take a short break. If you have done completely, if you have taken enough breaks, continue to watch it, I don't have a problem. But if you have been watching it along, it's better that you right now at about 50 minutes you can take a small break and run through the materials of, I mean, the study material for chapters 8 and 9, and then get back to continuing with the next chapter, because that's a little elaborate one, and then we can get to the last part, where again in that chapter also we have enough content to discuss. So coming up are those just after a small pause. Okay, come on, take that and we will get back. All right, guys, I hope you have got done with that. Let us move on to the next part, which is called as data organization. So, moving on here, we have some of the important points coming up with respect to data organization and data distribution. Let's see how this works. So, when you say data organization, first of all, data is organized so that it is easy for further work. Now, say for example, here if you are looking at what sort of further work are we talking about, or what is the further work. See, we are using this for data mining, later we may use it for another data analytics. So in all those cases, if you want things to be fine, so what will we be doing? So we will organize the data in a proper way first place, and then we will try and do certain other things, right? So before even we do anything in greater detail, it is important for us to make sure that the data is structured, cleansed, so that we can streamline the work. So in that context, data organization is about classifying the unstructured data into various groups for easier management. Data organization, we already know from the previous discussion that data is two types here: structured and unstructured. Unstructured data is raw, unformatted, and obviously it is not directly suitable for any type of decision making. So when such a thing is not suitable for decision making, what is the next thing that you will do? You want to organize it in the first place. So in that context, when we talk about structured data is very tabular, structured data is tabular, graphic, etc., and it's very neatly organized and helps in this business decisions by neatly streamlining the operations, improving the business intelligence, and enhance the business model. So as you can see that these three are clearly the advantage of having organized data. So therefore data organization is about dealing with unstructured data and organizing it in such a way that it will be neatly structured later. Okay, so that is the first part. Then moving on is called as data distribution, which shows all possible values of a variable. So there are so many variables, right? So in that, this particular data distribution shows possible values. Now which one is the right one, which one is the wrong one, or like say it is about the probability distributions that you have studied back then, right? Tossing a coin, rolling a dice. Sometimes there are finite number of outcomes, while sometimes there are infinite number of outcomes that can happen. So like this, here it is important for us to understand whether something is finite or infinite, right? Let us see how those things work here. Here shows the frequency or probability of an occurrence. Shows what? Frequency or a probability of an occurrence. Now that is why we talk about normal distribution, binomial distribution, Poisson distribution. All these are the number of possibilities based on the outcomes, right? So going by that, we're talking about some of these aspects, right? Data distribution is classified into discrete data distribution and continuous data distribution. So discrete means again here based on countable values, right? Discrete distribution is based on countable value. Okay, based on countable value, which is all about finite number of outcomes. Finite number of outcomes. Okay, like rolling a dice and tossing a coin. No matter how well you roll the dice, only six numbers are there. So the outcomes are limited to six. Similarly, if you see about this one, the other one, continuous distribution, there it is based on uncountable values. Based on what? Uncountable values, where infinite number of outcomes are possible, which is represented by how deep the probability is, which is called as the probability density function, represented by using probability density function, right? Like see what exactly will be the outcome. Some of those are all that is what you studied. If you have gone through the syllabus, I've explained each of them. uh, normal distribution, log normal distribution, f base distribution, the chi-square distribution, or the chi-square, however you call it, exponential distribution, and student t distribution. These are all where the possibilities of the number of outcomes are infinite. So you don't exactly know what would be the one or two or three possibilities. There can be many in number. But when you see on the other side, binomial, probably two outcomes, Poisson, no matter what it is, but the number of events that occur in a fixed time frame. So fixed time frame means in 1 hour how many things can go wrong, in one day how many are wrong, like that, in a fixed outcome. Then hypergeometric, probability of success in n trials. So if I try it for 10 times, how many number of success would happen, like that, if you measure that, that is called as hypergeometric. And when we talk about geometric, this all these are there in the fill in the blanks and true or false at the end of the chapters, and you do which one comes where. So if you see geometric, it is more to figure out as if the which one is the first success, which one gives you the first success in a series of trials. So when you try a number of outcomes, which one gives you the first success, like that, if you are figuring out, that is called as geometric. So geometric, hypergeometric, Poisson, and binomial are the four distributions where finite number of outcomes are there. They are called as discrete data distribution patterns, while the other six on the other side, they are called as continuous distribution patterns. So taking all this into cognizance, I want you to run through both the sides one more time. I also told you keep the book next to you, so please go to the book, run through each one of these quickly so that we can move on to the next topic. So this is data distribution. Alright guys, let us then move on to the next topic there, which is called as data cleansing. One of the very easy topics in our book, that is called as data cleansing. The process of correcting or deleting, any type of inaccurate or improperly formatted information is only called as data cleaning. Now remember guys, in data cleaning, we are only cleaning the existing data. We are not changing the data, right? And when it comes to a broader word called data transformation, which is why I wrote data cleaning versus data transformation. When you compare, you see data cleaning removes irrelevant or wrong data, while data transformation changes the data. So in data cleaning, you are only cleaning up things, that is removing unnecessary things or something like that. You are not making any changes to the other data. Duplicates are removed, unnecessary redundant aspects are removed. But in data transformation, changes are made. Data transformation, put a star to that point if you want to remember, because that alone can turn out to be a line or an MCQ there. Data transformation changes data from one format or structure to another, from one to another. Then now steps involved, if you see what are the steps involved in data cleansing, it removes duplicates and irrelevant data, fix structural errors, filter the unwanted outliers. Now I hope you all remember the word outliers. Something that is normal in the set is okay, but something that doesn't follow the normal pattern and which is out of the pattern, that is called as a outlier. So filter all the unwanted outliers, handle the missing data. You might want to replace the missing data by knowing the pattern or trend. And then finally, sometimes in this also there is a danger. While you try to handle the missing data, you cannot add or do some nonsense with the data. You have to make sure that the data is complete, right? So handle missing data. You have to be very careful. You should not just for the sake of fixing something do it, but do it the right way. And then we're talking about validation. We're talking about what? Validation. Data validation methods are there. We'll have to check that data validation. And then quality assurance, checking whether the data is intact or not. Okay, so then remember the note which I wrote, very important point here, because when you work on poor data quality can lead to wrong decision making. So that in itself is a danger which you have to much be bothered about and try and understand what exactly the harm can be. So always ensure clean data is valid, accurate, complete and consistent. Valid, accurate, complete and consistent. So these four are the characteristics of clean data, which also sometimes have been asked or appeared in the exam. Sir, if you clean the data, what are the benefits? Now see, what are the benefits of data cleaning? Correcting the errors, because we've collected, when you remember data gathering, we did it from multiple sources. So all sources data may not be the same, so it can vary. So therefore, correcting errors when you got the data from different sources, followed by reducing the mistakes, mapping or linking the data, monitoring the errors, enhancing corporate decision making, and also speed. So the rate at which you can take the decision, or the speed at which you can take the decision, also will have the clarity or the impact. Then coming to data validation. What about data validation? The last part of the chapter, but it's a very important part, because there are 6 type of checks that also can be asked as a question out there, which ensures clarity, accuracy, and reliability. CAR, I told you and highlighted those, right? Data validation ensures 3 things about the data in reporting or decision making. That is, it ensures the clarity, accuracy, and reliability of the data in reporting or decision making. Remember, this has come in the exam as a question. This one you can see here. The type of data, data check, or the data type check, range check, code check, uniqueness check, consistency check, and format check are the 6 type of checks that are done on data validation. So with that, we have a clear understanding of 4 concepts in the last 10 minutes or so. Again, uh, after resuming from here the classification matrix, we moved on to talk about data organization, data distribution, and the types of distribution. Please go through one line. For this side, discrete distribution types, I've already told you what it is. This continuous distribution types, please go through all of them once. Okay, I will just see if I can kind of hold that fort for you and bring in here, if that is there. Just let me, I want to show you that normal, whatever those Gaussian, yeah, just data distribution on the, okay, just quickly give me a minute. I think we should be there in just about, okay, there we are. I think I can get you those. Yeah, see here. So following are the continuous distribution types. Normal distribution, I have explained it with it. It's symmetrical on both sides equally. What possibility positive side, what possibility negative side. Log normal distribution, L of n, logarithm, a variable is log normal if natural. Log n or log of n is normally distributed. F distribution is in a symmetric shape, right? Used to test variances between two normal populations and they're equal. Minimum value 0 and maximum value is no. The curve never approaches, right? So the minimum value can be 0, but it never touches the horizontal axis. It goes like this. That also I've drawn and shown. Chi square is a sum of squares of independent standard normal variables, and all values are greater than 0. Exponential distribution is models time between events. Two time, when can one occur to the other? Constant. Two possible failures. When did one failure occur? When is the possibility of the next failure occurring? And then students T distribution is a bell-shaped symmetrical population, again, for which the standard deviation is unknown, which is very much similar to the normal distributions, the up and down thing that you've seen. Okay, so those, that is what I wanted you to just quickly recollect, and then that is what is there here. And of course, we have also covered the third part of the chapter called data cleaning, and the last part called as data validation. Okay, if you want to take a moment of pause and just run through all the points, because this also I can show you once. We will just check that because it is important. The last part what I just showed you, the 5 points are clear, no? For data cleaning, let me just show you data validation. Yes, data type check, whether numeric data or text data or date, everything. Code check, whether the valid code, say if you are using any postal code or state code or any code, whether the code is valid, followed by a range. Now like say if certain websites you are allowed to enter only if you are above 18, or the range is between 18 to 25, or if you're applying for a job, 18 to 30 age group people only can apply, whether the value in that box falls within a range. Then we talk about format check, mostly for dates, mmddyy, ddmyy, all of that. Then consistency verifies the logical consistency, and talk about delivery date obviously cannot be before the shipment date, only after shipment delivery date. So whether everything is happening one after the other, is it consistent? And lastly, a uniqueness check to ensure that phone numbers or pan, Aadhaar, the duplication does not exist in that. Aadhaar is the best example that I gave you. All these 6 checks are done to ensure whether the data is valid. Data is valid. Okay. So this is the story about all of this, right? Like again, as I told you, if you are through the last 15 minutes, we covered the revision of this piece. So I want you to go through to that part. Then we can then move on to discuss. So now that we have discussed 2 chapters, the content, you can as well. I think it's about an hour or so. Of course, I asked you to take breaks in between. I don't know when you have paused for a long. So if you haven't paused till now, only but for the breaks that I gave you in between, if you want to take a full deeper pause after these 2 chapters and then continue, we will also do that when it comes to the next chapter, where we will be talking about data presentation. All the points with data presentation or data visualization is a very important thing. So before I discuss that, if you want to take a quick short pause and come, you can do so. Let me give you that, because when we do marathons, you need to do it with clear sight. If you want to pause also, you can pause here so you can come back and resume. Come on. All right, guys, I hope you can take the time as you want, but let us move on. I will continue. You guys can continue at your pace. Data visualization. Okay, wonderful chapter this one, and has a possibility of asking you very easy questions, then fill in the blanks and all that. The dash is used for showing numbers this way. A circular diagram is called what? So some of the MCQs, fill in the blanks, true or false, are damn simple. Also the content itself is very simple, because today much of the presentation that is being done is done in a very eye catchy visualistic manner, and that too for the kind of devices that we use. For the devices that we use today, colors add up value. So attractive and colorful aspects, the more attractive and colorful you can put up things to, it will be much better. So considering all that context, it is important for us to present all of this visually. So data visualization, what is this concept all about? Presenting data in a very visually attractive manner through using graphs, dashboards, or other mechanisms, that is only called as data visualization, which is a very very easy method of presenting eye catchy information, which is used for better decision making. Okay, so on that note, let us see what it talks about. About 65% of people learn the best through visuals. So data visualization helps in spotting trends, patterns. See, we have summarized these very important points and kept, so it will be useful for us. Trends, patterns from multiple data sources. Data visualization helps you track both financial and non-financial key performance indicators. Data visualization were earlier useful for design level managers. Only people with that level of knowledge and understanding, those people used to use this. But today everybody is able to use this. Data visualization was earlier useful for design level managers, but now it is used by all the managers. Doing data visualization the right way is about, first, know the objective. This also was asked in the exam, guys. So when you're talking about data visualization, how to do the data visualization the right way, right? So know the objective, find out what it is, know the objective. Always keep the audience in mind. Who is that you are giving the data for? Because, sir, how will that change? See, ideally, it will not make a big difference. But the point is, sometimes, people who are at the ground level, they are not convinced with shorter formats. They want some elaborate detail. But people at corporate level, they don't have the time to sit and read everything elaborately. They want concise information. So this fight is always there as to who needs more information or what. So that is why, know your audience. Who are you giving it for? So if you know clearly who are you giving it for, that itself solves a big deal. Always keep the audience in mind. Invest in the best technology, and improve the data visualization ability. So all these are the 4 steps of doing the data visualization in the right way. Now, guys, one of the very, very easy discussions that you are going to have. So stay put and concentrate because a list of points are going to be discussed right now. Uh, First of all, before I discuss the types of visual tools, why are you doing all of this? Uh, why can't we present it in the form of text only? Now, no doubt you can present in the form of text, no problem. But visual data generally helps in better data analysis. Visual data helps in better data analysis, faster decision making, and analyzing complex data. So when you want to analyze complex data, or like broad based highlight the data, that will be enough. Visual data helps in better data analysis, faster decision making, and analyzing complex data. Because just imagine if you have to sit and run through tables for long amount of time. So one table to the other, one point to the other, what did I see in that column to the relation in this column. I'm not saying it's difficult, but over a period of time it looks very chaotic, right? Like, what am I doing? So instead of that, if you see how other things were working around this, you can make it even more very simpler. Okay, that is the main idea here. Like, of how to go about doing this. So three very important points. And now let's see what are the types of visual tools. So in the types of visual tools, the first one, let us see what are the types of visual tools. In the first one, lot of ways are there, but dashboards are one of the most convenient ways to see a lot of information in one place really quickly. Lot of information in one place, right? Within the dashboards, you can end bar diagrams, you can emboss pie diagrams, you can show data in tables. A dashboard, what is a dashboard also we will see. Graphs are there. Next one, after dashboard, graphs are a very convincing method to convince large data in simple form. Information presented in graphical form. Information presented in graphical form is only called as infographics. What is it? Information presented in graphical form is called as infographics. Then we can present data in the form of charts. Then we can as well use videos. Data, we can use videos, maps, slides is an age old way of presenting, right? Today again, everybody, like I said, visually attractive manner. You have softwares, if you have gone through the syllabus, you know what I'm talking about. Tableau, Power BI, and this one Excel, all these are used to present. So today there are a lot of tools that you can use to present data in a very, very visually attractive manner. That is our understanding for that. Let me move along, guys. As far as possible, I'm taking you through each concept, because when we made the notes itself, I was telling in the class that this notes should help us run through everything. But again, I suggest you to check back each point on the notes, I mean in the module, so that if you have any lack of clarity, that will also be solved. Don't blindly follow me, right? What, sir, after almost about an hour or 15 minutes you are telling this? No, I've told in the beginning. Once again, I'm reminding, wherever you think it is for you to see, please pause and go to the main books, check that content, all that. So some of you are, have you studied and you may not remember it. So if you go back and see once, you will easily able to remember. No, sir, you continue. We are comfortable. Chalo, we will do that also. Come on. Objectives of data presentation. What is the most important objectives? Why are we presenting the data in the visually attractive manner? What is your agenda behind that? Now, if you ask me what is my agenda behind that, let us see here. It helps in making very informed decisions. Helps in making informed decision. Main message main message is easily understood. Main message is easily being understood. Then convince the stakeholders. Okay, so sir, are you saying we can't make informed decisions with text data? No, you can, but it takes a lot of time. So visualization or data presentation makes it even more. The more visually attractive manner you present, right? Again, they're talking about presentation. You can present it in the form of tables also, but you can present it in the form of narratives also, but it is important to convey the matter. Now, in whatever form you present, if the audience don't understand it, then what is the whole point? So that is why we are discussing all of these points individually and clearly. Okay, And then we're talking about putting it in narrative format. With narrative format means a text explanation which gives the context, right? Context will be there, then problem explanation as to what it is, and then finally what is the outcome. We can do that also. So neatly in a narrative manner we can explain, this is what happened, this is the idea behind doing this. So like that, that also can be very clearly told through that, right? And finally it presents data in a very clear, concise means a very precise and visually appealing manner. I wish this question comes in the exam because it is one of the easiest questions that can come up to. What is data presentation? The definition you can write, and what are the main objectives of data presentation, putting it in a neat clear manner. But now the big question is, how will you present the data? So you are going on telling about data presentation, but how will you present the data? We will present the data in a proper way. That proper way of presenting the data is only called as data presentation architecture. Architecture means normally the design as to how the data will be prepared. So that is exactly what we are going to now understand under the DPA, or the data presentation architecture. Let us see that data presentation architecture is nothing but a skill set. What is it? A skill set that helps to identify, modify, and format and present the data in a very meaningful manner. Present the data in a very meaningful manner. Then it also talks about merging certain things, right? What does it do? Data presentation architecture, nothing but architecture means the design. How will it be presented? Like before construction of a big building, they will put the idea on paper, no? Like that here also, identify, modify, format, and present the data in a very meaningful manner. So data presentation architecture merges data and stats within visualization, talks about communication, and blends in the organizational psychology and also change managemental aspects. So it merges all these five concepts and blends them into one, so that it is, helpful in presenting the data in the most precise, concise, and the visually attractive manner. Rather, in one word, they called it as a very meaningful manner. The purpose of this data presentation architecture is the scope, timing, format, and visuals. Whatever you are presenting, they're all aligned with operational and strategic goals of the organization. Those whose architectures are good, their presentation is good, their top management or any decision maker can see it easily and make some quality decisions. That is the idea behind finding a suitable architecture. And before I give you a small pause in discussing all the various visually engaging methods, right from dashboards to maps to density maps to everything, we will discuss what are the steps involved in what are the various steps involved in data presentation architecture. First point is to identify requirements. What is that you want in doing this? What is that you want? Followed by data collection and processing. Data collection, which is about gathering the data from various places and then processing the data. Data collection and data processing. Choose the right visualization technique, which is what we are going to discuss below, as to various visualization methods are there, which I will also show you as to what they are, ranging from dashboards to bar diagrams to pie diagrams to histograms, and even tables can be used to present the data. Choose one of the right data visualization technique. Select tools and platforms. Create an architecture, implement and test, optimize and maintain. So all of these are steps involved in deciding what is called the data presentation architecture. So before I proceed further, guys, I would like again to tell you to take a moment of pause, so that we have a clear understanding of what we did here in the last three topics here. Till here I have already discussed, that is up till data validation. So in this last piece of discussion, we talked about what is data visualization, how to do it in the right way, followed by it the 3 points that talk about visual data helps in what, and also what are the various type of tools available for us to do that. Then objectives, talking about various objectives of data presentation, and the data presentation architecture and steps involved in the data presentation architecture. Definitely I suggest you to take, or definitely put me on pause here, go to the DPA topic, run through all the points, because yes, you heard me, and it will be way more easier for you to close all those points if you can give yourself that needed revision one more time. Can you do that and then get back? Come on, quick. All right, guys, I hope you did what you're supposed to do. If not, please take all the time needed to do it. Let's move on to the various ways of visualizing the data. Now, also here, I would like to show you in the class, I've shown you live examples of all of these. I wish all of you who are the students of our class, you know what we did. We went for each one of these, and we've done a Google search on each of this, and we have seen how each of this looks like. Just for you to quickly have a recollect or recap of that, showing you what now a dashboard looks like, presenting so many things there, right? A sample dashboard showing travelers spend analysis. They pulled this dashboard using the software called Tableau, it seems, right? So from Tableau, BI and Excel, there are three tools. And otherwise also, I've shown you those many number of dashboards from Google examples, right? So basically, the first one here we are talking about is a dashboard. Let's go with understanding what is a dashboard. Back to our summary sheet. And dashboard is a very interactive visual tool, which will help you to manage key metrics, visualize all the data points, and generate summary reports. Who can use the dashboard? Dashboard crunches everything to present it in one screen. Earlier dashboards were used only by top management people, but it's not like that now. It can be dual, organization wide. It can be used organization wide, and it can be used at even team level. Key performance indicators can also be figured out from a dashboard. So lot of information, when you want to present it in simple concise forms, you can go for using a dashboard. And today almost all the websites, your bank website, your stock trading platforms, wherever you have data that is spanning across multiple areas, they all have dashboards to present it in a very visually attractive manner, right? But only thing, one thing about the dashboard is, if you are not updating the dashboard, then it doesn't make sense. So regularly and automatically you should ensure that the dashboard keep getting updated. So what about the dashboards? You have to just see that, right? The dashboard gets updated. Requirement: regularly and automatically it has to be updated. Regularly and automatically updated, that is the dashboard. Then curve is nothing but, here they are talking about when data is presented in the form of using lines, curves. So it quickly reveals, curve here is a method of depicting the information which quickly reveals a full situation. And curve specifically here, they're not talking about a line, they're talking about the art of presenting information in the form of curves, right? So curve quickly reveals a full situation, wherein it inspires the imagination and persuade. Three things: informs, inspires imagination, and persuade means to be able to go through it deeply and then understand what is it actually meant for. So guys, there are multiple form of diagrams that we use through these. Curve means, it's like I said it again, it's the presentation. They're talking about not the cross line curve. Instead of presenting it in numerical format, picture based formats are even more visually attractive. That is the understanding. Okay, let us see that now. Bar diagram, first one. Bar diagrams help in comparing the data, highlight the discrepancies, it shows the trends, and then indicate historical highs and lows, all of which are possible in a bar diagram. Can we parallelly also see how a bar diagram looks like? Let me get to that where and show you how a bar diagram looks like. There you go. That is how a bar diagram looks like. It shows the ups, downs, current situation, everything very clearly. Moving on to the second one, guys, is called as a line chart. What is a line chart? A line chart is something that connects data points. Line chart connects data points to show. Now let me also show you what a line chart is. But for a continuous progression, what does it show? For this continuous progression, it is useful very easily to observe trends over a period of time. Let us see what a line chart also looks like here. Line chart looks like this, right? Shows neatly the trend growing. I mean, suddenly it went up neatly, like it line chart neatly help to compare. This is the BSE Sensex, below is the Nifty. One side Nifty, one side HUL share price, so that you can see how Nifty performed and how HUL performed against the Nifty. For some time they both went almost similarly, but then you can see that the Nifty was underperforming, but the HUL stock was doing very good over a period of time, if you see that. So like that, here also that comparisons can be made more viably and visibly. You can see this is furled on here, but whereas if you see this one, this has been going like this. So this clearly can be visualized through the line charts. That is the idea of what a line chart is. Then of course, one of the most important diagrams that generally we discuss is the third one, called the pie chart. Coming back to the pie chart, is a circular graph. What is the pie chart? A circular graph shows segments representing. I don't think anybody here doesn't know what is a pie chart. So they are neatly segmented and shown. Each arc or angle represents that share. So when you want to do sectoral classification, market oriented classification, for all those aspects, you can go use what is a pie chart. It's also called a circle chart, also called a circle chart. Number of slices, if kept limited, it will be better. I think if you remember the class, I showed you one pie diagram with too many number of slices. It was not very visually convincing or appealing, right? So it was too much for people to handle, because it is not that easy. So if the number of slices are kept limited, it will be a better way to visualize. Moving on is the next one. Okay, let me just show you pie chart also. Moving, I can have it here right away. So that is a pie chart, right? So you can see it, like how or which portion is circled, how much, that will depict what the pie chart looks like. Then the next discussion is about two things called maps and density maps, where maps are generally used to show geographic data. Maps are generally used to show what? Geographic data, to show the relationship between locations and patterns. Show what? Locations and patterns. Say for example, state-wise agricultural production of rice, wheat, etc. Number of people who are literate in each state, number of accidents state-wise. So if you want, I think you can more easily check this over the picture here, like state-wise. You see, this is how the map. We again neatly discussed. So today, a lot of Instagram handles post maps with how much production of wheat is there in the country, in which state, how much which each state's GDP contribution, to show all of that. How many road accidents are occurring in each state in a month's time, like that, to show all of that maps. Here only I will explain you what is the density map, because I want you to see this. And you see this this map is about how flood is affecting. You see all the coastal areas, dark line is there in the coastal areas. That means there the density of something is highly prone, right? You can see here, highly prone, all the dark one. Rest of it, the white areas are very less prone. That is what I highlighted. So all these areas, if you see, they are very less prone. In which area how much impact was there, if you want to see that, then we will go for a density maps. So maps and density maps, both are map based visualistic data, which will be useful for understanding the content. Like for example, density maps show patterns of relative concentration of various data points on a map, and it's useful for large set of data and dense geographic regions. Then comes the next one called a scatter plot, which is a graph that shows scatter plots. I think I gave you the example of cricket run rate comparison between two teams. You see those dots that are being plotted, right? And a batsman's over by over coverage, again the dots that show the number of balls he faced and at what speed a bowler has bowled a ball. Scatter plots are very useful in showing statistics in a game like cricket. They use it a lot to show all the statistics and stuff like that. Scatter plots, a graph that shows relation between two or more variables by plotting them individually. By what? Plotting them individually. It is useful for spotting trends or patterns. It is useful for what? Spotting trends or patterns. And then it is helpful for identifying the correlation between 2 points. Identifying the correlation between 2 points. Let me just show you how a scatter plot looks like. showing correlation. This is what exactly the scatter plot looks like, showing various dots and correlation between 2 points. The next one is for project based structures. Here also I showed you. Now since I'm on that page, let me show you Gantt chart. Gantt chart is generally used for projects, which project is completed and after that which product is started. You can see very visibly through that clearly, and where overlapping projects are there also you can see it clearly. See the red lines. Once a red line is over, here this red line is over, then the next project is starting, then here also, then after that is over, then the next one is starting, then here also. So neatly it is going like that. But if you see the blue lines there, here also it started, so which means it is overlapping. To know the status of a project, we can always use this Gantt charts to understand the project and what it is going through. So if you see the wordings of what a Gantt chart shows, a project's timeline and sequence of activities, very useful in project management. It displays which task must be completed before the other should start. So when one is over, then the other one will come, and how they are allotted. And any time related data can always be projected on a Gantt chart. Which part is completed and which part after that, you can easily present it on a Gantt chart. It's very attractive. Then comes a bubble chart, right? Bigger bubble, smaller bubble. You can use different bubble colors to show the difference. Bubble charts are useful for citing of data in a very visually attractive manner again. Okay, so let us see how that works. Enhanced visualization using bubbles to represent data. Enhanced visualization using bubbles to represent data on scatter plots or maps shows a relation between three or more variables using bubble size or color, and displays large data in a very visually attractive manner. That's what a bubble chart is. If you again want to see the picture, we will just check that up also. Right, this is what a bubble chart looks like, how various people have contributed, the proportion of professions of people. See, computer scientist largest in that, engineer second largest, mathematician, programmer, like that. And then small job people, I mean, in the sense, number of people doing that job are small, not small job, what I mean. Yeah, like this, small circles represent that much proportion. So the biggest set of people here, if you see, they are the computer scientist. Some other place, if you draw bubble chart, the big bubble represents the bigger works, smaller one, different sizes. Like if you want to show planetary data, that big circle is like Jupiter, earth will be somewhere there. So if there is something bigger than Jupiter, then somewhere the sun will be there much bigger. So when you want to, again, all this is to make visually attractive comparisons. So if you see, by easily you can tell the number of computer scientists are more in this category than the engineers or programmers, like that. To easily catch up and say what is useful, that can be presented in a bubble chart more easily. And then if I have to show you before moving to anything else, histogram. This is histogram, where the histogram is used generally to compare the frequency at which something will happen, how frequently something can happen. Age 5, 10, 15, so on the age pattern, and at age 5 it's only happening one time, at age 10 it is happening 4 times, at age 15 it's happening 5 times, then again at age 20 it's happening at 4 times. So like that, when you have two things to parallelly show, at frequency and age are the two things that are discussed here, so we have shown them, the more clearly they can be shown. That is how a histogram looks like. So convincing data, if you have very clearly, if you want to present it to somebody, you can use a histogram, which is a chart that shows the distribution across categories. It shows distribution across various categories, displays the frequency with a range or a group, and uses all the bars where the height represents the number of entries, useful for frequency or age type of distribution, as you saw in the example. So guys, I think when we discussed in class, we discussed it elaborately across couple of sessions, but like I said, uh, you know you can easily revise it if you know what each visual technique stands for. So I also prepared a summary for entire data visualization techniques. In this one, you can use dashboards, which is a combination of everything, graphs or diagrams, where individual type of 9 graphs are there, which you can present the data. And the last one, you can as well present data in the form of the age old technique called as tables. Now, going by that logic as to what the tables are, you can see tables also known as cross tabs. What are tables also known as? Cross tabs or matrices. focus on presenting individual values, right? Focus on presenting what? Individual values. Data is arranged either in the form of rows and columns. Data is arranged in the form of rows and columns, and it uses various color and sizes. Uses what? Various color and sizes. That is how a table is there. If you see what the advantages or limitations are, it helps you to identify specific values. Comparative analysis is possible in tables. Subtotals or grand totals are as usual shown in the tables. But when you want to imagine big or show something high, the problems are there. Poor scalability, followed by when you have more than 10-15 rows or 5 columns, it makes it very hard to read. That is a challenge about tables. I think all of you know that, because a lot of our textbook data is present in the form of tables, and when tables keep on going page into page and page and page, we somehow get irritated. After some time be like, "Are how much can we fit in like this?" Right? So that is always there when it comes to tables. The last topic of this chapter deals with report design using data visualization. This is a very, very important exam question. Short, simple, fantastic question, whereby you can easily find what the story is. Report design using data visualization. So how can you go for data visualizations report? What will enable you to do that? If you see that story, find a story in the data, find a story in the data. That is, organize the data, check for any missing data or outliers, and identify correlation points. Did we do this in the cleansing aspect? First of all you find out and understand what is the data that you have, because once you know what the story is in the data, accordingly only you can present it, right? Then create a narrative, catch the title and subheadings, give context to the data, and get in a consistent flow, huh? Get in a consistent flow and highlight the key insights. Highlight what? The key insights of the data. Then first one, find the story. To create a narrative. 3, very, very important. Choose the right set of visuals. Choose what? Right set of visuals. A suitable visual, you have to pick up whether it can be a chart or a map or a graph. Chart or map or graph. Then form, size, color and spacing. Form, size, color and spacing. All those are something that you have to neatly discuss or figure out, because that's a very important thing to deal with. Then follow the visual language. Whatever you learned now, whatever content you learned now, choose which one will be the better one for you to prepare the data and gather all of the data into that. Now, because if you can do that, uh, you know then you can understand that lot of different data will be there. So then you will have to understand about the uniformity, right? And then giving clarity to the user. Match the organization's brand or style, and then give uniformity or clarity using a visual language. Finally, publish the report to people. Such a damn simple multiple time asked question in the exam is: find a story, create a narrative, use the right visuals, follow a proper visual language, and then publicize that report. With that, the story will be clearly done. Understood? So this is the entire mechanism behind what you're talking about. And to do this, you have 3 softwares. We have 3 softwares. What are the 3 softwares that are helpful for you to do this? That will be Tableau, Power BI and MS Excel are the 3 tools that are available for presenting data in the most visually attractive manner. It is about a page, I mean half a page or a small page topic. Please go through what each of these softwares have to offer to you. Right? With that, it brings us to the end of the 3rd chapter as well, and that leads us to the 4th chapter, which is the final one for our discussion: data analysis and modeling. What is data analytics? What is this modeling? And then there are some emerging technology discussions wherein I will need a little piece of your help in finishing that, because the last part of that, they are all read and understand topics which, like I said, I haven't even summarized them, because once you glance through before going to the exam, that'll be enough. That is ranging from XML, XBRL, those last series of topics are there. No, I will tell you what we are going to do also, but just take a moment of pause and come back into the discussion. We will do the last chapter called as data analysis and modeling in just about a minute. Come on. All right, guys, let us move on to the next topic, wherein we are going to now talk about data analysis and modeling, which is the last piece of our discussion. Now, what is data analytics? If you see what is data analytics, now here there are three topics that I'm going to clearly and thoroughly discuss with you. Okay, three small but very important topics that I will discuss with you. Rest of it, there is a little piece of onus that you have to take on yourself for now. Okay, let me do that as well. Here we are first going to talk about what does the data analytics mean by. Okay, data analytics is the science of evaluating unprocessed data sets. Data analytics is a science of evaluating unprocessed data sets so that you can draw conclusions and also identify patterns in the raw data and extract the useful information. One more time, you have lot of analytics to make and extract the data, which is exactly what we are talking here through the concept of data analytics. Now, data analytics, as the name goes by, it is one of the most commonly used corporate terminologies today, because everything depends on the data today, right? So the more the data people have is of no use unless they are analyzed properly. Now a lot of people have lot of valuable data, but just that they don't know the right sense of using it. So keeping that in the context here, let us see how things work. It is a science of evaluating data sets to draw conclusions and identify patterns one in what we call as the raw data and extract very useful information. So it is taking you back to the very first chapter where we talked about data, from their information and from their learning and having the knowledge. Now this you are not doing or not going to do it manually when you are using machine learning algorithms. So if you're using machine learning algorithms to do this, and through automated systems, that is only called as data analytics, which is processing large amount of unstructured data for human use. Unstructured data for human use. So that is what we are talking about as data analytics. You can read it all together as one definition: science of evaluating the unprocessed data sets to draw conclusions and identify patterns in the raw data and extract useful information. Extract what you call as useful information using machine learning and other algorithmic techniques so that you can get the right sense of understanding. Okay, so this is the entire story around the concept of data analytics. Now, what is one of the most commonly asked exam question in this pattern? If you see, what is the exam question that we are looking out for here? It is the next one. What is the process of doing data analytics, right? The first step in doing data analytics is to decide a criteria for grouping data. Each one I gave you the example also in bracket. Step number one is about collecting the data, criteria, because only once you know the criteria, accordingly you can collect whatever data you want. Criteria for grouping the data, that is, you are going to group it based on demographic base, or on what logic are you going to group the data. Then we are talking about collect the data from internet or from the previous data, computers, people, all of that. Collect the data. Then we are talking about organize the data. So first one, criteria, then collect the data from various sources, organize the data, clean the data. Till here I don't think anything will be difficult, because that is what we discussed thus far in the other chapters. Now when we are going to talk about anything else that is coming from there, adopting the right type of data analytics, this is the most important step, and this is the most extensive content of this chapter, which has been asked or used multiple number of times in the story. Criteria, collection, organizing, cleaning, and then adopting the right type of data analytics. There are 4 points out there in finding out what the right type of data analytics are. First one is called as descriptive data analytics, which gives you, I mean, all four give you answer to a question which also I will discuss below, because that is a separate topic. Let's not deviate. Descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive analytics are the four types of analytics, and you're supposed to choose the right type of analytics. One more time, guys, I want to show you the entire process there. Select the criteria for grouping the data. You can group it on demographic basis, you can group it, because demographic basis mean gender, age group, like whatever you want. First choose the criteria, then collect the data from various sources, organize them neatly, clean them by removing duplicates or errors, and find the right type of data analytics method which is suitable, so that you can go and find the conclusions that you need, which can be further used for decision making. What are the benefits of doing this? Improves the decision making, improve the decision making, increase the efficiency in the operations, and provides improved services to the stakeholder. Decision making, efficiency, improved service to the stakeholders. Small but a very important topic, because that question that you saw with 5 steps, it's already been asked in the exam. Also, these four analytic types that you see, I have made a 4 column table. Our class students know this, that we have made a very elaborate 4 column table about each of that, with everything covered under that neatly. So that is something that I want to do it also as the last topic of our revision. But before we do that, the last but one topic is also very neatly discussed, which is called as data mining. Now the big question is, what is the concept of data mining? Data mining, where I've explained this in such thorough detail. Guys, there is a physical place called as data center, where all the computers, servers, all these data are, all these physical devices are there. There, data is stored. Okay, that data is huge in content, and such data is known as big data. So in a physical location called the data center, in a physical location called the data center, all the data is stored on servers or computers, wherein that place technically is known as data warehouse. That place technically is known as what? A data warehouse, which is a huge repository, means a place where all the data is stored. There's a huge repository of all the data. Now, from that huge data warehouse with so much data is there, you have to extract the data that you need. One more time, you have to extract the data that you need. Now this process, the process of extracting patterns and needed information from this huge ocean of data, the way you are extracting the data, that is called as data mining. The process of extracting patterns and needed information from the data warehouse is called as data mining. What is it called as? Data mining, right? So guys, I've also mapped up our entire syllabus in that one small picture, right from the first chapter that we discussed till the last chapter now that we are discussing. What are all the steps? If you see those 9 steps I have mapped for you, right? um, in fact, the next, actually the topic is data mining only, but what is that is done before data mining, and what is that is done after data mining, I have while trying to explain students the ultimate logic in the class, I have prepared this. So step 1, data gathering from various sources, then organize them neatly. Data is gathered, data is organized, then data cleansing will happen. Data cleansing means cleaning, which we studied. Then we studied putting the data into the repository called data warehouse, where all the data is stored, the big data. Then from that, data is extracted to data mining. Once the data is mined, data analytics, the 4 types of data analytics are applied on it. Then the data is visualized or presented in the form of various charts, graph. Data visualization, then data presentation, and finally decision making will happen. This is the theme of your entire syllabus. If somebody has watched through this whole marathon, huh, please, definitely at this point, if you are convinced that yes, the syllabus is worthwhile, there is a logic in all of this. I mean, I am not asking you your personal opinion on this subject, that is up to each one of you, but all I am saying is, see, there is a flow. And if you really have understood all of this, not as a mark of anything or appreciation or something like that, just as a matter of fact, if you let that flow in the comment, some guys seeing this later in the previous version of the marathon also, people did that. They left their comment when I've told them to do like this, because you have watched it all through till here. Now if somebody didn't come till here, they will not know what I'm telling, so definitely they will not go and leave comment. You came till here, you heard me, so no sir, I don't have a practice of leaving comments and all, I won't do. Fair enough, choice is yours. But if you have a big heart, please go leave it, because it will be useful for others to understand that the time you spent is worth it. We are close to 1 hour 50 minutes into it. Yeah, in another, I mean, my target was to do it in 2 hours, and we are well within there, which with one last topic that we have, so we should be able to comfortably do it, huh? So when somebody is spending 2 hours of time for a 20-mark subject to revise everything quickly, it should be worthwhile. And 90% of the people today, what they do is read the comments first. They won't even go through the entire marathon. So if you have really done this till here, and you have understood this, right from the first chapter where we talked about structured unstructured data gathering, from there till decision making, this is the whole circle. And this entire set of pie chart, bar chart, line chart, histogram, everything for data visualization presentation. Now data mining, how to get the data. So like that, every topic has an essence and sense. If you have understood all of it, please, with a as a mark of having a big heart for letting others know that this was worthwhile, leave a comment there. And then we will now wind up this discussion by discussing data mining, which is also known as KDD, called the knowledge discovery in data, KDD. Why is data mining important? Because if you mine the right data, data mining supports corporate decision making. You can use data that was mined from those repositories for doing smart data analytics, then identifying trends and patterns. Okay, that is the importance of data mining. Then talk about what the challenges are. Yes, of course there are challenges. Nothing like an exercise like this will not have challenges. Of course it will have challenges. Like what? Scalability is no doubt a challenge. Automation definitely is also a challenge, because yes, you can automate a lot of these things today, but sometimes the major problem is automated tools, no, they can't think in certain specific scenarios, so they randomly end up gathering the data, which is why sometimes it could tend to be a mismatch. Okay, other than that, everything else is pretty cool in the story. The techniques of doing data mining would be to describe what data you want by describing the data set, prediction of various outcomes using machine learning algorithms. And to do these two steps by knowing what it is, you can use these four techniques of finding association between one to the other through association rules. You can use AI or artificial intelligence tools to find out through neural networks how one is linked to the other. Or then you can go through an old school technique which is called as decision tree, which is like the root starts at a particular point, and then if yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, it goes like a tree structure. And then KNN, which is the K nearest neighbor. Our guys know this very well because I've explained them how this works. K nearest neighbor, that is for this condition, what is the nearest relative point or the nearest relation? Like that, also you can find the depth involved in it. Okay, so that is the set of techniques that you can use to do data mining. What is the process of data mining? If you see what the process of data mining is: setting business objectives, preparation of data, model building and pattern mining, and result evaluation. Model building and pattern mining is the biggest task. Four types of data models are there, which are now going to be discussed, which type of analytics are suitable for what, and then evaluate the results, and the knowledge is pulled out, right? The importance of knowledge has to be emphasized, because what we did till now is what was once upon a time a raw data. From there we extracted all of this and pulled and brought it to finally data to information, and information to knowledge. Okay, so all of this is something that we need to take into consideration for doing data mining. Now, sir, can you please tell us where data mining is used? Where the data mining is used in our syllabus? I mean, like in our context, we are all students of finance. So, where is it used in our context? Yes, in finance and management, data mining today is used in detecting money laundering and financial crimes. Loan repayment predictions can be made, whether which account will make loan repayment, which account will make any default, that one. And also credit analysis, also a credit analysis or credit score analysis can be done. Target marketing as to exactly knowing who your target market is, and sending advertisements or something that appeal to them very clearly. Design and construction of a data warehouse. The data warehouse is nothing but from where you extract all the information, the repository. If you know what you want to extract out of that, if you clearly know what you want to extract, can we also build it like that? That is the point here, right? So for all of this, you can use data mining. Please make sure that you go through the topic of data mining in a little more detail. I think I've tried to put all the points in that one page. If you give one more round of reading, I am hoping you should be in a comfortable position with data mining. Then coming to the last part of our discussion, which talks about what are the various types of analytics. Actually, this is a very simple topic, because it talks about what it is in the name itself. Descriptive analytics, which talks generally about the past. Descriptive analytics generally talks about the past, which describes what has already occurred. What has already occurred. Then diagnostic, like in medical sciences, we talk about diagnosis. What happened, right? Why something has happened. If you just talk about what happened, it is descriptive. But when you talk about something as to why it happened, then it is called as diagnostic analysis. Okay. While the next piece of analysis type is called the predictive analysis. This is more like, based on the current data, you are telling, using historical data that you are telling what could possibly happen, and then prescriptive analysis, like how doctors write a prescription and give you, like the kind of, this is the medicine that you have to take. They give a prescription, or like prescribing what happened. So based on the data, you understand what has happened, and accordingly you will tell what should happen, which means it provides with all the needed recommendations. So descriptive analytics uses, so we will go one by one now. First one is descriptive analytics, uses historical data to study the pattern, and it serves as a very good starting point, right? Because it is not telling anything great, it is just telling what happened. It is a simplest form of analysis using basic math and statistic methods. Use tools like graph chart, pie chart, bar chart, which cater to a wide audience, Then if you see what the steps involved are, first define what you want, decide the metrics what you want, followed by identify the data requirements, prepare the data, analyze the data, and present the data, much like all the steps that we have been discussing all this while through the entire syllabus. Followed by, very easy to use is the first advantage of descriptive analytics. Very quick reporting, and you can pick up some actionable insights. If that happened in the past, what are the next set of actions that you should take? That actionable insights also you can pick up. Okay. Followed by some examples, like you're preparing a past event summary or survey, like any data from the past, social media engagement, how much was there, survey data, general trends, all those, what has already happened. If you conduct a survey about it, that is all called as descriptive data analytics. Then what you are going to do now, the second one is called as diagnostic data analysis. See this. Diagnostic is why something happened, explores the underlying cause or the reasons, and it goes beyond descriptive, using techniques like what have you studied. One of the techniques that we just studied, data mining, that is also for diagnosing what is the trend or a pattern. So data discovery, drill down, data mining, and correlations, all these four are the common techniques that are used for the sake of doing a the diagnostic data analytics. The advantages of doing a diagnostic analysis are, it identifies and tells you the importance of data, which part is important you can diagnose, identify the answers to data related problems, helps you to organize or derive a value. The platform required shall be flexible, agile, and configurable business intelligence. That is the very important limitation. Actually, though not written there, this point is considered to be the limitation. It is not the advantage. The platform required should be flexible. If it is not flexible or agile, means the ability to quickly change things across. So agility, right? The freedom of movement. So flexible, agile, and configurable business intelligence tool, if it is not there, you won't be able to diagnose. So actually that is a limitation there. How to do the diagnosis, steps involved: define what you want, the question, set up the analysis, collect all the data and refine it, collect and cleanse, you mean, then filter what you need, the findings, and finally present the results. Okay, like you are doing cyber security data, you collected, and then you went through the entire data in detail, the entire cyber security data you went through in detail, and then you found out how many time wrong sign in attempts happened, number of incidents or breaches. So what you are doing is, post occurrence of that scenario, you are sitting and digging all the data to see what went wrong or something like that. You're diagnosing, like how you take a blood test and find out what went wrong in that person. So that is called the diagnostic analysis. Then predictive analysis, what could happen using historical data, you will make a forecast. Using the historical data, you will make a forecast. Is it's better to see the past data and then set your goals and other things accordingly, right? Set realistic goals, effective planning, manage performance goals, and if you are very well aware of what is happening, you can kind of avoid some of the risks. And predictive analytics, as it's the name goes by, it is just a prediction, works on the probabilistic logics. Okay, works on probability, works based on probability, using techniques like data mining, machine learning, and also deep learning aspects, right? You can use predictive analytic techniques on customer behavior and purchase patterns. This is what all Amazon, Flipkart, all these people do. That is why they keep sending you those recommendations on how to pull off something, right? And then helps in forecast of supply chain, how much stock you have to keep. I gave all these examples in class, right? For inventory demand, should you go for just in time, will it work? In some cases it may not work. So all the details that are needed, that also will be prepared. Plus it helps the executives to take a proactive and a data driven decisions rather than blindly predicting something out of nowhere. Use the data. Today almost all entities, Flipkart, Amazon, Swiggy, Zomato, Zepto, all these people, to most of the apps that you use, they trace your behavior and then accordingly suggest. Look at the advantages. You can use it for inventory forecasting, personalization, fraud detection, and risk mitigation, all four. Alongside that, only limitation is data requirements are very huge. So all e-commerce, sales, HR people, security, healthcare, predicting outcomes of what it is, everybody uses predictive data analytics. And the last one is called prescriptive data analytics, which again is a very advanced form of data analytics today, which will prescribe you what to do. Machine prescribing you what to do is kind of you're taking a chance, but it is quite a thing today because of the data. It is the most advanced and requires very special expertise, rarely used in daily operations because it has a significant impact on the corporate strategy. Okay, you can do that. And today machine learning and deep learning techniques are definitely used for doing prescriptive analytics. It enhances the production customer experience and promotes business success also if it goes right. Okay, it provides a data driven recommendation, not a random one, helps you to make informed decisions, and machine learning reduces the amount of human errors, no doubt in that. Having said all of that, it requires again a large volume of data to run through the text. And machine learning may be also suitable for machine learning may be suitable for external variables. Okay, so in GPS, oil and manufacturing, healthcare, insurance, and pharma, in all these industries, you can use this analysis because a lot of data is available. Prescriptive data analytics, like in maps, when they say GPS, where something is going, where something is not going, depending on that, you can again figure this out. Okay, So guys, on that note, let me say that my part of the larger revision that we planned for, right? I targeted 2 hours, I was a little over 2 hours, I guess. We are able to wrap up to this full part. Now, I will also leave you with what you are supposed to do, because I did, like tell this, because we did prepare summaries of all of this, because they have a list of simple points, and the material that we made itself is so concise that you can go with all of these. So 4 or 5 topics of XML, XBRL, cloud computing, the 3 types of cloud: public, private, hybrid clouds, 2 types of intelligence aspects: business intelligence, artificial intelligence, which have both machine learning and deep learning, robotic process automation, and machine learning and data modeling. So just last 5 topics that are there, each one has one paragraph of content. Cloud is something that can come in the exam. Machine learning and deep learning have a set of points. So glance through all of those topics, which I have not covered here, because like I said, they are something which you can read once before the exam and go to the exam. Okay, because rest of the topics you do it as much possible very well. These run through them once or twice so that you can remember. So guys, on that note, I hope you have found something out of this marathon, and it did help you, is what I am expecting. Right. So on that note, thank you so much, guys, for being part of the marathon. And if you also felt the same, like I said, do leave a comment, because it helps others in recognizing that if this fulfilled your purpose, it will fulfill theirs also. I wish you all the very best for the upcoming exams, and I hope you do really well.